In this Club Random podcast, Bill Maher and John Mellencamp explore a range of topics, from their experiences growing up, their personal relationships with their fathers, to their views on music, fame, and societal norms. Mellencamp shares an enlightening anecdote about his father. Despite a rocky relationship due to differing views and his rebellious streak, Mellencamp notes a crucial turning point in 1975 when his father, in a surprisingly vulnerable moment, apologizes for all the ways he may have wronged him or held him back. The conversation then veers into perceptual differences about their individual family histories and their respective fathers' personalities and careers. The banter evokes a mix of humor and introspection as the different views of societal expectations, particularly around the 80s, are examined. Maher complements Mellencamp's stories with anecdotes about the significance of late-night talk shows for up-and-coming comedians. The Tonight Show, Maher notes, was something of a rite of passage for him and his peers. Mellencamp then delves into a vivid account of why he quit drinking, describing his younger self as a young hippie who favored frequenting bars, getting inebriated, and starting fights with strangers for the thrill of it. He admits that these actions always ended badly for him, leading him to wake up unrecognizable to himself, covered in road rash, and with an awareness that alcohol was not positively contributing to his life. Through this admission, Mellencamp portrays his past self as someone who antagonized other people for entertainment and who reveled in the provocatively dangerous lifestyle accompanying heavy drinking and substance abuse. Throughout their conversation, Maher and Mellencamp focus on the ethos of their upbringing, career progression, the notion of individuality, authenticity, and the continuous search for validation and acceptance, either personally or professionally. They also touch on cultural shifts, societal pressure, and the paradoxical relationship with fame and public image versus personal identity and self-perception. Notably, they explore the theme of rebellion and its role in the formation of Mellencamp's music career and his personal life. The discussion between Bill Maher and John Mellencamp continues as they delve into deeper topics, highlighting their perspectives on physical confrontations, societal expectations, racism, and the state of America today. Mellencamp reveals a jaw-dropping piece of his past, explaining that his young, rebellious self, who regularly sought physical altercations, was actually driven by a certainty of victory, despite his size. The banter takes an interesting turn as the duo compare themselves to Mellencamp's dog Chico, who, despite his small size, believes he can take on the world, barking at the silence every night. This is a parallel to Mellencamp's younger self, full of confidence and defiance. Further into the conversation, the duo tackle the tough issue of racism, with Mellencamp sharing a heartbreaking story about his son's friend, a young black man, who was purposefully hit by a car and killed after an argument in Los Angeles. This sparks a debate, with Maher expressing a belief that the situation has significantly improved over the years, while Mellencamp maintains that the shift is not as profound as Maher suggests. Mellencamp emphatically insists that racism is still a significant problem, challenging Maher's viewpoint based on statistics and reported data. The exchange between the two offers an interesting exploration of perceptions of progress and the actual state of societal dynamics in America today. The duo's banter continues even as they discuss their skepticism towards government reports and figures and debate the rate and extent of societal progress. The tension is palpable but respectful, providing listeners with a thought-provoking scene to mull over long after the conversation ends. For Maher and Mellencamp, every disagreement is an opportunity to shed light, stimulate thought, and spark dialogue about diverse and complex issues. The conversation concludes with Mellencamp sharing about his first band, the Crepe Soul. Interestingly, despite being the youngest member at age 14, Mellencamp reveals that racist attitudes of the time forced him to carry a knife for protection. This anecdote acts as a stark reminder of the troubling race issues of the past, a topic that clearly still resonates with Mellencamp today. The implications of this past tie neatly into the earlier dialogue on racism's prevailing presence in America, further cementing Mellencamp's stance on the matter. The remainder of the conversation oscillates between lighter topics and more serious discussions around the state of the music industry, with Mellencamp opining on the use of derogatory language in rap music. Despite their varied viewpoints, Maher and Mellencamp's discussion never loses its spark or authenticity, continually inviting listeners into a rich, raw, and revealing narrative that promises a unique insider's glimpse into the minds of these two influential figures. In this portion of the Club Random podcast, a lively discussion ensues between the hosts, Bill Maher and John Mellencamp. Moving away from the initial exploration of societal issues, Maher and Mellencamp dive into statistics, skepticism towards the government, and unexpectedly their perspective on climate change. Mellencamp exhibits a deep distrust for government-reported statistics, distilling his reasons by noting a past where dire predictions of a looming ice age by the year 2000 turned out to be misguided. This skepticism is provide a stark contrast to Maher's trust in government statistics and the bureaucrats who compile them. Talk of statistics leads to a shared skepticism of climate change predictions. Mellencamp expresses that he is more concerned about the core of the Earth heating up than the effect of plastic waste. Agreeing on the need for action on climate change, Maher and Mellencamp express a shared belief that the human race is not going to kill the Earth. Rather, the Earth will rise to eliminate humans. Throughout the podcast, it becomes apparent that Maher and Mellencamp see themselves as lucky individuals living comfortable lives attributed to their successes. The conversation steers to them reminiscing about the stress-free days of their youth, providing a nostalgic comparison to their busy, complicated modern lives. We then dive into lighter topics. Mellencamp shows his dissatisfaction for the impatience shown by drivers in L.A. This leads to a humorous exchange around Maher's idea of a built-in honk system for traffic lights to counter what he sees as pervasive phone checking at lights. Moving deeper into personal lives, Mellencamp talks about his new girlfriend and how they unexpectedly met. He details how they've been inseparable for the past 7 months and paints a rosy picture of the honeymoon phase of their relationship. Near the conclusion of this segment, the conversation becomes more humorous and lighthearted. They poke fun at their own personalities, and Maher comparing them to characters of The Odd Couple. Their banter gives listeners a glimpse into the genuine camaraderie and sense of humor they share. The conversation ends with a reflective debate on generational shifts in education standards, with both expressing disbelief at the lack of basic knowledge in younger generations. It is evident that despite their differences, Maher and Mellencamp share a mutual concern for the future of education. The podcast conversation with Bill Maher and John Mellencamp takes an intriguing, amusing, and occasionally graphic turn. Both guests address numerous topics. They begin by discussing the peculiarities of a celebrity's private lives, referencing the title of a book that lists consent ages for each state, aimed to provide a guide for touring rock stars. They relate successful moments in their careers to their personal lives, both critiquing and appreciating their situation. An advertisement interrupts the conversation for a moment, promoting ZipRecruiter, a leading job posting and recruitment site. Maher then announces his live tour dates to the audience. Afterward, the conversation segues into societal perceptions of personal relationships, particularly concerning disparity in ages. John Mellencamp shares personal stories related to his early marriage and being a grandfather by the age of 36, noting that these milestones were not uncommon in previous generations. Both Maher and Mellencamp engage in banter regarding each other's habits. Mellencamp points out an unusual habit of Maher on his show, involving touching his belt buckle that made it seem like he was controlling the teleprompter by doing so, which Maher found to be insightful feedback. The conversation takes another leap to discuss honesty and trust. Mellencamp asserts his general distrust for everyone, excluding Maher. They agree on the importance of truth despite the proliferation of misinformation in the media. They also discuss the sensationalization of tragic events, such violence in schools, in media outlets. The pair agrees these events should realistically be presented for people to understand their gravity, referencing how graphic war images led to a shift in public sentiment during the Vietnam War. They analyze controversial topics like gun laws, abuse, drug use, and the consequences that arise from a lack of comprehensive understanding and empathy, touching on the potential effects of researchers' misuse of psychotropic drugs on younger generations. Amid these intense topics, they also discuss the simple annoyances of everyday life, such as traffic stoplights, conveying a shared exasperation towards impatient drivers. This lighthearted exchange breaks up the gravity of the topics discussed while demonstrating their rapport and shared sense of humor. In the captivating exchange between Maher and Mellencamp, they dive into a healthy debate about trusting information and the depth of society's cynicism. Approached from different perspectives, they share thoughts on an array of topics, including societal norms, faith in the public, and the ambiguity of historical events. Mellencamp raises concerns about trusting government sources and brings to light his distrust of the Department of Labor statistics. He cleverly ties the discussion into questioning AI's dependability, also created by people having potential biases. His skepticism runs deep, extending not just to the technology, but also to the people who program it, illustrating his discomfort with trusting standardized narratives. Maher, on the other hand, is portrayed as a pragmatic realist, defending the government not as a perfect entity, but the least bad option. He stands his ground, painting a picture of civil servants persistently working to provide vital data, not based on political biases, but on objective empirical information. Then, breaking away from socio-political subjects, Mellencamp steers the conversation toward self-destructive habits. He lightheartedly predicts that AI will become a beloved tool for people like them when health consequences arise from their stupid __, highlighting his grasp on the human inclination to trust technology when it serves personal benefits. As they further discuss politics and corruption, Mellencamp moves the conversation into legacy, where both aren't particularly concerned about their personal historical footprint. Yet, Maher says that Jesus Christ is still remembered today, arguing for the existence of legacies. Mellencamp counters this, pointing to the forgotten stars of the past, illustrating the fleeting nature of fame and legacy. Their discourse reveals sharp differences between their perspectives. While Mellencamp tends to see the glass half empty, Maher offers more optimistic viewpoints, even when confronting harsh realities. Despite their distinct approaches, they share a mutual desire to get to the bottom of society's most complex issues, highlighting both their shared intellectual curiosity and individual diverging perspectives. As the discussion continues, Maher and Mellencamp offer perspectives on a variety of issues such as environment conservation, wealth inequality, and criminal justice reform, culminating in an exploration of American societal issues. Mellencamp introduces the concept of a looming environmental catastrophe, suggesting the motivation being significant monetary profits, triggering a dialogue about the authenticity of environmentalist claims and potential exaggeration. They agree that even though misinformation exists, environmental changes are real and pose a substantial threat. They shift from global concerns to American discourse, examining the implications of one-dimensional trust in political and environmental narratives. A controversy on resource utilization emerges as they navigate the issue of population growth versus resource scarcity. Maher presents a Malthusian perspective, stating that the Earth lacks the resources to support an ever-growing population. Mellencamp offers an alternate view, emphasizing the problem being inefficient resource utilization rather than sheer insufficiency. They plunge into a discussion on criminal justice reform, focusing on racial disparities in the system. Mellencamp criticizes the privatization of prisons, alleging this led to a disproportionate number of black men being imprisoned. Both agree on the existence of racial disparities, however. They diverge on the contributing factors. The conversation takes a turn towards homelessness and societal attitudes towards it. They agree on the escalating crisis, but exchange differing views on solutions. Mellencamp believes in humane interventions to aid people off the streets, while Maher seems more inclined towards enforcing legal measures to manage the situation. They both express discontent with the situation in California, with Maher remaining critical of the state's approach. Interwoven in the discussion comes their reflections on life, work, and luck. They compare their experiences as performers, Mellencamp explaining the uniformity in his shows, and Maher highlighting the simplicity in comedy production. Mellencamp narrates his early life health struggle and frames it as luck, leading to an intense debate about perceived fortune. The mid-conversation ends on a contemplative note, with Maher questioning the existence of any suffering. It encapsulates intricate dialogues covering diverse topics and represents a profound analysis of societal complexities under the lens of two distinct personalities. Maher and Mellencamp transition into a dialogue about religion, dance, and censorship. They speak about the nature of the Nazarene church which Mellencamp attended as a child, a sect with restrictions on dance and attending movies. Mellencamp reveals the impact of these regulations on his personality. The duo then navigates through a discussion on popular movies, with Mellencamp being an avid fan of the movie Giant, widely seen as a classic American film. He summarizes the plot and emphasizes his admiration for the movie, underscoring its reflection of America's growth and transformation over time. In contrast, Maher expresses his inability to watch long movies, to which Mellencamp counters that watching a film like Giant is more about understanding America's evolution rather than personal relaxation. During the course of their dialogue, they often intersect with personal anecdotes and opinions, such as Mellencamp's appreciation for the honesty and Maher's longing for universal acceptance. They further discuss their similarities, stating they are both not shady, a term they use to denote an untrustworthy or dishonest person. Employment loyalty becomes another point of discussion as they recount the tenure of their respective work teams. Mellencamp mentions that everyone working for him has done so for decades, citing friendship and trust as a key reason, while Maher makes a humorous note about his team being a bunch of ass-kissers. The host and the guest end this portion of their conversation with a reference to Pete Seeger, the American singer, quoting his instructive saying, "Keep it small and keep it going." They interpret it as advice to prefer simplicity and constancy over momentary grandeur. Check out the full podcast by clicking the link in the description below. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for listening to this podcast summary episode of The Pod Slice.